Hello and welcome to the FEZ show. It is the 9th of June 2020 and we have lots to talk about today after the shocking news that Pascal Wehrlein has left Mahindra with immediate effect. Yes, we were expecting it to happen, but I think no one saw immediate effect coming at all. And we'll also take a look back at the Race at Home Challenge finale that happened on the weekend, and with me to break all of this down is the one and only Jack Pickering. Morning, Jack.
Good morning, Jack. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
mate.
it's been a very crazy weekend. We saw the Wehrlein rumors, something like back end of last week, but I think no one expected that it to come A, that quickly, and B, for it to be immediate effect. But yeah,
Yeah,
we've got a lot of stuff to dissect today.
we had our German sources. They were sort of saying, look, it's going to happen. When it's going to happen, we don't know. So we were like, there wasn't really much to go on. It was very speculation. And even with the stories from the race and E-Formel D, so forth, it was very speculation based and it was all on just waiting for it to happen. And like, it could happen. But yesterday he comes out on Instagram. Now, the reason why he's come out on Instagram and he said, look, I've left Mahindra with immediate effect, which sort of like hinted that the rumours with Porsche are true. But what was interesting in that statement was that he's not joining Porsche like immediately. And the reason why, Jack, he's left immediately is because contracts run out at the end of July. Okay, so contracts run out at the end of July, but we will be racing in August, right? So basically, at the end of July, when after the last race, which should have been in London, the 22nd, 23rd, whenever it was in London, I think it was a bit later than that. I think I've managed to put a day in the midweek somewhere. But that last weekend, basically, of July before it went into August, and then they would have had a week where the contracts would have just run out at the end of July on the last day, and then August they could have signed for anyone. But because now we're racing in August, Jack, potentially to finish the season, contracts are up. So it's easy for teams to grab people now.
Yeah, no, unlike most series, I think Formula E does a certain period, like a certain period of contract, like a bit like you do with your phone. But it did mean that, like, even someone like Daniel Abt, who is now not in the sport, but his contract was due to run out in July, and I think the general consensus, even before this whole erupted, was that he was not going to be re-signed. And so yeah, with the way that that's done, it does free up the opportunity for drivers to go looking elsewhere. And for Porsche, it meant that they could get Neil Giordmaina out of the Formula E car a little bit earlier than was expected. I do feel for Neil because, I mean, he has had a pretty rotten career in Formula E. He came in with Dragon in season 4, and it was a tragic weekend. I think I saw a tweet from Hazel Southwell yesterday saying that he said on that day that it was his toughest day that he's ever had in racing. And yeah, this season hasn't been much better. He may have scraped like a top 15 a couple times in qualifying, and then had a few top 15s in the race, but he hasn't scored a point. And I think Porsche were always looking for someone else for season 7, and they've gone for Pascal Wehrlein, which and something that I will adhere to. I know that we are on YouTube, and there are quite a lot of YouTubers out there. Weirdly enough, the YouTuber called Arava, he revived his My Driver career and put Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche for this season. This was something that he started doing 2 months ago, so I'm not sure how he keeps on doing it, but he does seem to have a knack of just predicting the future in these sports. So it's absolutely insane.
The thing that I found interesting though, Jack, is that he's not potentially driving for the rest of the season in Porsche. He could leave and have to wait till season 7 to actually start because Porsche haven't actually announced yet. That's the thing. Like, he's announced that he's left Mahindra, but there's been no official announcement from Porsche that he's signed for Porsche, basically, for Wehrlein, and that Neil Giordmaina has left, or what the situation is for the end of the season. So it could be that Neil Giordmaina continues the rest of the season and Pascal Wehrlein just has to wait till season 7 starts.
Yeah, no, that is quite possible. Yeah, I think it would be nice to have Neil Yanni to complete a couple more races, even though that as I said, his career has not been great at all in Formula E. It would be nice to see him complete a couple more races before he leaves the sport, probably for good this time. This is something that is still unfolding as we're speaking. Who knows? Like, but by the time this gets released, there might have been more stuff. But yeah, as we know it, it's Pascal Wehrlein just won't race for Mahindra. I think it's more of a when, not if. If Wehrlein goes to Porsche. Um, yeah, but one thing for sure, it'll be nice to see him up against Andre Lotterer next year.
Obviously, it's a big move for Wehrlein. Like, this is now him like a factory driver at Porsche again. Obviously, he was at Mercedes. He technically like a factory driver there when he was at DTM, but now he's in an official factory role. But what in terms of Neil Yanni, which is what we were talking about in previous episodes, and we mentioned it about rookies. Like, they're not going to get the time anymore to bed into the series. If it's not going well, then boom, you're going to get chopped.
Well, yeah, we just with Neil Yanni, yeah, it's been unfortunate for him. It means that he can't do it. But it's looking likely that he won't be doing any more races in Formula E. I do think that there will be a couple of drivers that are safe. So someone like James Collado, who hasn't done amazingly this year, I still think he'll keep the seat. Nico Muller, there's rumours about Audi, but I don't think he's going to go there for season 7. And Brendan Hartley, who is a Porsche driver, has kind of been overlooked for that second seat at Porsche, but neither of them have done that well. I believe that's all the rookies from this year. But yeah, no, they I reckon that Neil Yanni is the only one who's not done fantastically. I mean, the others have not been amazing, but I feel like they've done well enough. So I don't think Nico Muller's got any points, but he showed, I think, in Marrakesh and Mexico, 2 fantastic qualifying laps. Brendan Hartley got points in Diriyah. James Collado got points in Diriyah and Santiago as well. Obviously not as good as his teammate Mitch, but I think he's still done a very good job for this season, and I think all of them should find themselves in a seat next year.
Yeah, but for Pascal Wehrlein, if once this is confirmed, like this is a move and a half. Like this is a really good move, good stepping stone for other things potentially that Porsche might be doing in the future. And he's got a top line manufacturer drive in a he was with one, you could say, with Mahindra, but we'll get onto that in 2 seconds. But now he's with a proper top team, going into the future.
Yeah, Porsche have shown flashes of brilliance over the last season. Um, and I think that will only get better over the coming years. And we've seen it with like Jaguar, who came in season 3. They had one rocky season, and then they had I think they got their first podium in season 4, but then it wouldn't be until season 5 that they. I'm just making sure I get this correct. Yeah, season 5 Rome that they won. Trying to think, it was season 4, but no, I was there. Bird one. Um, uh, but but yeah, it will take time for the likes of Mercedes and Porsche. Uh, but because it's Formula E, you just don't know what's going to happen. Which is what I love about this sport. But yeah, no, I think that next year they could be fighting for the for the odd race when they've shown this year that they've been capable of pole positions, like Andre Lotterer in Mexico, and Andre stood on the podium in Porsche's first ever race. And so I think bringing on Wehrlein, it does mean that they're going to have a stronger place in the team's championship because it's so competitive. Porsche kind of being weighed down a bit by Neil Yanni. So with Pascal Wehrlein in there, I think it's going to be even. I think they're going to be even higher up the championship order.
Yeah, I think it's a very good move. I feel for Mahindra because what do they do now? Because obviously they need to find a driver. Obviously they've got Nick Heidfeld. That makes sense to finish off the season. You've got Sam De Jong as well, who's obviously another driver that's part of the Mahindra program who filled in. It wasn't Nick Heidfeld that filled in for the Race at Home Challenge. It was Sam De Jong. So they could go for that. But what do you think they're going to do for the rest of the season? Who they might field and going forward, who might jump into Wehrlein's seat?
I think that for the rest of this season, if I were to choose who to go in there, I would say that it would be Heidfeld or Sam de Jong. I think they're both Mahindra drivers, and so it makes sense to go for them, and it also eradicates the hassle of trying to get another driver if out of their contract if they still already have a contract for the rest of the season. Um, and so yeah, it would make sense to field one of those two drivers for the final couple of races, however many races that we do have when the season resumes, and then for season seven, sign someone because I don't think they'll sign Nick Heidfeld again because um, because I think Nick's almost 45 or something now. So
I don't know if he's that old, but he's pretty old.
yeah, um, but and Sam De Jong, I'm not sure if they want to keep him as a reserve driver. I don't think that he would get promoted. I think that they'd go for someone else. I know that someone in our Formula E Zone chat room on Discord, if you want to join there, I know someone on there. Links in the description, by the way, guys. I know that someone on there is pushing Daniel Apt. I don't think Daniel Apt will be on the grid in season 7. I think he may return. I think he may have a drive for season 8, but I think it might still be a bit too early for season 7. Um, I touted Oliver Turvey last night though. I think if Mahindra shove a contract in front of him, he might make the move from Neo to Mahindra. But at the moment, as this is so recent, I still don't really know what's going to happen.
For me, that like Oliver Turvey, I was literally about to say his name because I know we've hinted at it, right? And we're trying to say that he's not happy at Neo, which is probably a lie, right? But we interviewed him recently, and he was talking about that loyalty to Neo Turvey, and but you could tell in his voice, right? Like when you interview Turvey, he's a happy chap, right? But on the subject of Neo and his loyalty and his future, it just didn't sound like he was happy, if that makes sense. Like I was on the phone to him and I was like, this doesn't sound like Oliver. This doesn't sound like what Oliver would say. So whether or not he's in a position where maybe I don't know his contract, but maybe this is his last season. Let's speculate that this might be his last contracted year. He's been at I don't know how his contract works, but if he is thinking of, my contract's up at the end of the season, like I could jump into that Mahindra, what is available. And I think this might stir some drivers who might not be happy in their seat in Formula E and move into other seats and actually try and, grab. Because now there's got a couple of seats available. You've got the Audi seat, you've got Mahindra's seat, and if someone leaves from one team to another, then obviously other seats become available. So obviously I think Turvey, if you were going to go with someone in Formula E who might be easy to persuade to jump ship, I think Oliver would be the one because I think he's spent 3 seasons now at the back of the field and he shouldn't be spending 3 seasons at the back of the field. So possibly he's the one. Honestly, I don't know. It opens. The thing is with Formula E, there's so many drivers, Jack. So many drivers want to get into this series, one way or the other. So basically, Mahindra have an open market in who they can choose, right? They can choose the best driver who comes to them. It could be an ex-F1 driver. It could be a F2 driver that's, Luca Giotto, for example. It could be anyone.
Yeah. I think in terms of ex-F1 drivers, we won't be seeing Sebastian Vettel in Formula E anytime soon. But yeah, no, it Mahindra can just choose anyone that comes to them, and so yeah, I think it does make it rather exciting because if they go for the best option they can, then it improves the caliber of the field again. I can't see any of the other F1 drivers over like the last few years dropping out. Oh, actually, no. Sergei Sorokin might be an idea because he did the test in Marrakesh, I think, and
Yep.
so maybe that might be an idea for Sergey to get the seat.
No, definitely. As I said, the options are endless for Mahindra. But you know what I want to say actually, Jack, is what about Mahindra? Have Mahindra lost Pascal Wehrlein just because of their name? Now, I'm saying that because obviously Mahindra are a manufacturer. They're a team that are trying to fight the likes of Audi, Porsche, Mercedes to become one of these big electric manufacturers in the future. And obviously, having a name like Wehrlein really helps. But because Mahindra aren't that well known around the world, and especially to these drivers, when a team like Porsche comes knocking, like, even though they've got less experience in Formula E than Mahindra do, drivers are just jumping because their name is Porsche rather than Mahindra.
Well, yeah, that's a hard one, Jack. I think you're being a bit unfair on me for showing that on me, but but yeah, no, I think it could have been a factor. It could have been a factor in the Verline move. I think, and this is no disrespect to Mahindra whatsoever. They are a fantastic team, and they are proven race winners, both not only with Felix Rosenqvist, but also with Jerome D'Ambrosio, who almost found himself without a drive for season 5, and second race in season 5 actually won the race in that Mahindra. The thing is with Porsche have more resources, so I feel like they have more opportunity to do better than Mahindra can, and Mahindra, as fantastic as they are, and they are, I believe, the leading car manufacturer in India. I think Wehrlein saw the Porsche, the what Porsche were doing. He saw the potential there, and I think that he can have a better career in Formula E if he moves to Porsche and maybe fight for a couple championships. Whereas with Mahindra, I feel that they may have peaked with Felix Rosenqvist, and they might not be as good when it well, they might not be as good as they were again.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem. Like, and I've always said that about Mahindra. Like, at the beginning of the championship, it was a very even playing field, even with the well-known manufacturers, and they did really well. Now that more money's going to start getting bundled into each project. Like, where do Mahindra stand? No one really knows. Mahindra are an unknown quantity in that because they could have the money. They could easily get the money and start competing with them, or they don't. They stay as this smaller manufacturer team and become that sort of midfield team. And then if they can, produce a good result, they produce a good result. So it's whatever sort of direction Mahindra want to take, really, because when you've got Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, BMW, Jaguar, all in the series, it is going to become more and more expensive to keep up with those teams. And yes, the cars are pretty stable, and there's not too much they can do with them. But the money that teams might start spending on powertrains and investing time and research and development into specific parts of that powertrain, that's where Mahindra may fall down. But what I want to talk about, the last thing on silly season, Audi, because I think I was mentioning it to you off air, like, Nico Muller, right? He was the one tipped to replace Abt in season 7, right? He's gone to Dragon probably to get a year of experience. Probably, it's not been bad, but it's not been great at times as well. But obviously, Rene Rast is being talked about. Now, we still don't know the Rene Rast situation fully, whether or not that's for him to drive in Season 7. He is testing the Audi car alongside Lucas di Grassi with the Season 7 powertrain, so they're taking a Season 7 powertrain, so that's straight away for that 2-year cycle to remind people that they're going to obviously make a new powertrain for Season 7, but they'll have to keep that for Season 8. And Rast and di Grassi is driving that in, and that's early July. But people are saying that, Rast's decision on whether or not he'll finish the season or even go into Season 7 will depend on the Formula E calendar, which was due to come out now on the 19th of June.
Yeah. I think for Audi, I think it makes sense to put Rene Rast in the car. Obviously, as we've spoken about, they're leaving DTM at the end of this year, and so they've got a whole pool of drivers there that they can put in the car. but yeah, it all depends on the calendar to see if there's any clashes with DTM. DTM have already released their calendar, and they're starting, I believe, at the Norris Ring. I think this time next month. But yeah, I think Rene Rast would be. I'd love to see Rene Rast in Formula E. We didn't see his potential from that one race in Berlin a couple of years ago. Um, but yeah, I think with with Nico Muller, he may have been the one touted to get that seat. That's why he got the Dragon Drive, but it just hasn't worked out so far. So I think maybe another season in the Dragon. I think he has shown flashes of brilliance. He showed. I think he got seventh place on the grid in Mexico City in the Dragon, which is and I'm sorry to say for Dragon, but they are a back of the they are a middle to back of the field car, unfortunately. But no, I think another season in Dragon would be good for him. I and yeah, bring in Rene Rast because he's shown in DTM that he is a proven two-time DTM champion. And so yeah, and I think it'll be good to see him in the seat for season 7.
Yeah, that could be one of the reasons why Nico Muller doesn't get promoted. Just give him another season, and you never know what happens with either the Grassy or Ras potentially maybe in the future. And I think it's the same with Brendan Hartley when we were talking about the Porsche seat earlier. Like, again, we don't know what's happening with Andre Lotterer. He's getting older. How long he wants to continue? Give Brendan Hartley another year of experience, and then you could put him alongside Pascal Wehrlein in the future. So, two teams there in Porsche and Audi, having basically drivers that they could easily pull forward in the future by having Muller and Hartley there. But I suppose we better talk about the race at home finale, basically, before we end up the show, because, mental. Wehrlein was leading this championship going into that final day with double points, and basically lost it through, again, just crazy driving standards going into turn one round at Berlin. And, Van Dorn is potentially one who goes on to win the championship, but that is the one that spins him round because like 6 other drivers collide behind him, which then push Van Dorn, which then pushes Wehrlein. And then Wehrlein sends spinning, and in a 15-lap race, there was no way Wehrlein was ever going to recover.
Yeah, no, I'd say it was disappointing for Pascal because he'd done such a great job on Saturday to take the lead in the championship, and so for him to lose it in that fashion, it was disappointing for him because yeah, I do think that he had one hand on the championship after Saturday, but I think yeah, turn one shenanigans. It was unfortunate. I do agree with Stewart. It was a racing incident because well, at first I thought, oh, okay, this is Bohemi's fault for going into Van Dorn, who went into their line. But then I just looked at the other replay, and then everyone just pile drived into each other, and it just spun Wehrlein round. And actually, despite going backwards, I believe that he was still in about 8th. Going into turn 4 backwards, and then when getting going again dropped to 21st. So I think that's what hindered him there. Had he been able to just get away from 8th, he might have been able to clinch the championship. But alas, no. And I think Stoffel did a fantastic job as well, and is a deserving winner. And I'm very happy Stoff won because I think he's the one that I called on Friday. I think you went Wehrlein, Jack. Will went Gunter, and I went Van Dorn. So I'm very happy with this result.
Another one in the trophy books for your predictions. You should be amazing. I don't know how you're not a millionaire, mate. From all this, you should be betting away and you'd be a millionaire.
So if me and Arav team up, because he's doing all the predictions driver wise, I'm doing the predictions result wise, I reckon that we could be millionaires.
Exactly.
Give me a call, Arav.
Yep, I think yeah, you've got a fortune tied up somewhere, obviously. But I want to talk about the sim race, the challenger race. Obviously, Kevin Siggy won the prize, and that was the big thing that I suppose we drummed up in terms of if Siggy did not win this,
You did.
was it?
You did.
Yeah, I
It
did.
was you. losing it live on air. That's probably been my favourite part of this show so far.
Yeah,
Um,
but it was good. It was good to speak to Lucas Muller on Thursday about if he was in Siggy's shoes, and he was like, "Yep, I'd be scared because anyone could take me out." Like, and you saw at the beginning, like the attack that Muller made on Siggy. Like, he was desperate to get past, and it could have just taken one tap from Lucas Muller, and that could have sent Siggy round like we saw Pascal Wehrlein being set round. And obviously Muller wouldn't have won, he would have got a penalty, but that means some other person who wasn't the top two won the prize. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But it was a good race. Siggy managed to then, pull out a decent gap. And I think, winning the championship, having how many points it was after Saturday's race, he was 53 points clear anyway. So I honestly think the right man won there.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can't imagine what this show might have been like had Lucas Muller or Petr Briliak won that race. But yeah, no, he does deserve it, and so yeah, well done to Kevin. At the start of the race, it did seem like Lucas Muller really did want it, but yeah, no, he just missed out in the end. One thing that I would just like to say about the broadcast, in its entirety, I loved the fact that Jack Nicholls kept on looking at the YouTube chat, even though he really shouldn't have done. And I'd just like to say on air, if Jack Nicholls would like to do carpool karaoke, then I'm here. I'm down for it. You can choose the music. We'll go in my little Skoda Fabia. Don't mind. So
Yeah, because of the reference to James Corden that he was getting. I don't know. I think that's a bit of a sting for Jack Nicholls being referenced to James Corden.
he's definitely skinnier than James Corden.
Yeah, he definitely is skinnier than James Corden. But like, what are people trying to say to poor Jack? Like, you're trying to say he's putting on a few pounds. I think that's a bit harsh. But yeah, I think the right man won in the thing. And let's just wrap up, I suppose, the Race at Home Challenge. Honestly, I'm thinking to myself, I'm in two minds about it. I'm glad it's over because the racing was a bit rubbish in terms of the FE drivers, But at the same time, I'm going to miss it because it was something for me to watch. And I'm in that dilemma where I'm like, I was just annoyed watching it. But at the same time, like, I'd rather have something than not have something.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Yes, I haven't been happy with most of it. Yes, it drummed up some drama with Daniel Abt, which was disappointing. But yeah, it will be a shame. It will be a shame to see it go. But I don't think many people will miss it. It does mean that I only have one choice of watching something on a Saturday afternoon, which is now the F1 Rewind, whatever they're doing. I think the F1 one is ending this weekend as well with a Canadian race. So yeah, it's that we are getting back to normality soon.
I find it odd that the F1 race they're doing it on Sunday after, because this week they'll be doing the Le Mans 24 hours. So I'm like, well, you've just had all the drivers basically do a Le Mans 24 hours and then asking them in the evening to come on and do an F1 race. I think even Lando Norris, when he said, what is next week? I was like, well, we're going to be... That's going to be a fun race to watch, I reckon.
Do you know what this means?
What does this mean?
I think this means that because they can't get any of the drivers, they're gonna invite some random people. So I'd like to acknowledge the F1 Virtual Grand Prix, and I'd like to volunteer my services for the Canadian Grand Prix next Sunday.
Yeah, there we go. I think what a way to end. What a way to end. So a few housekeeping things before we end. Obviously we will sort of kind of come up with a schedule now of when we will post videos, because obviously life is getting back to normal. So the daily stuff is ending as we have alluded to. So now that the Race at Home Championship, we're sort of going to look at a new sort of format to sort of bring you the FEZ show and keep it more to a newsy sort of theme. Patreon. if you're really enjoying, loving our content, hit the Patreon link below. Really helps us out. It supports us massively. Discord, join the Discord chat. Don't remember, that's a great thing. Remember to like and subscribe the video. Thank you so much. You've been watching the FEZ show. We'll be back at some point, probably towards the end of the week. We'll probably do another show towards the end of the week. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.